Hi everyone, it's Nidia here. Welcome back to my channel, and thank you everybody who's been supporting me so far. Welcome to everybody who is new. This is the Curated Shelf, and it's where I look at different authors and pieces of literature that have helped shape my thinking and everything that goes into my mind basically. So just the way we curate closets, I believe we can curate what goes on our bookshelf as well. Introducing new pieces of literature and taking away texts that perhaps are not anymore part of our lives, and also looking at things that have shaped us and helped us in our journey. So currently I've been this summer focusing on self-help and self-empowerment literature, and today, as you can see, I'm going to be looking at Byron Katie. This is just one of her pieces of literature, which is Question Your Thinking, Change the World. And she's done other books. I think I've mentioned this before. She's done books such as A Thousand Names for Joy, or I Need Your Love, Is That True? And so I'm going to be looking at Byron Katie today and how she's been so helpful to me. Each week I pick my books after a process of having conversations with people. That's what gets me to just look in my shelf and think of what it is that's helped me to in my discussions. And recently I've been working with people who are especially influenced by some of the stuff that we're seeing in social media, especially because of the current climate we're in. Many people are still confined within their homes or having to have very restrictive movements and are working from home and so forth. And I have had some conversations where friends or people that I'm working with are really influenced by what they're seeing, and it's affecting how they go about their daily life. And I really started to think that it would be good for me to go back to this specific piece of literature and the work of Katie, because it has been so influential in how I differentiate between what is real for me and what I need to question. So going to specifically this book was produced in 2007, and actually it's excerpts, sorry to say this correctly, from other works of hers. So it's just basically quotes. You can see here quotes that from other pieces of work that she's done, and it's a really good dive where I can just kind of like look at a specific area or a sector of my life, and then just see what rings true to me when I pick it up and I look at a few lines. So a little bit about Byron Katie. She basically went through a very difficult period in her life. I think it was in the 1990s. And I understand this was when she was going through a separation, and there was just a lot of personal issues that she was battling as well. And one day she basically woke up with this kind of like an epiphany, an awakening, where she asked herself, what would it be if I didn't believe what I was thinking, or I didn't believe this thought? And part of Byron Katie's work and her thinking has been to go into the desert to meditate in very quiet places. I think she lives in Arizona. I need to look that up, but I think she lives somewhere in a space where she can go and be quiet, and she goes to the desert very often, which I think is beautiful when I think of it. And she really woke up today with one day with this thought: what happens if I don't believe what I'm thinking? And that kind of like began a whole process for her of questioning her thoughts. And she developed what's known as The Work, and her website is called The Work. And The Work specifically, what she calls it is a process, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here, a process of inquiry and questioning basically what comes into our minds. So the work is specifically broken down into a process. And she leads the person through a process of asking 4 different questions. And the questions are on the basis of writing down the thought. So for example, it can be something like, I believe my neighbor doesn't care for our neighborhood. That could be a thought. Then she asks the question, is that true? And we might, yes or no. and we might think yes, and then we ask ourselves, upon what basis, basically. And we can go into kind of like a judgment mode, and she calls it judge your neighbor mode. And then she asks us to ask ourselves, what happens if I don't believe this thought? And Byron Katie gives some prompt sheets as well, where we can use descriptor adjectives around what happens when we think a thought is true, and what happens when we question that thought, and the possible alternatives that then come up in terms of what we think, but also what we feel. And her process really looks at breaking apart that perception and that thinking and that opinion that's formed. And she calls it kind of like a process where we question our reality, and question that what we're seeing, is it right or not? Is it true? Is it real? And we can go from a process where we fervently believe that something is right, and that's exactly how I think, and that's what I feel, that's what I believe, that's how it is, into then for us questioning, what happens when I am so attached and married to my thought? And her process actually provides a basis of us being able to let go of our thoughts. And one of the things she talks about in her introduction to this book and all of her other material is how thoughts are actually not personal. They come and they go. And it's up to a person to decide whether or not they want to actually attach themselves, bond themselves to that thought. And her process of inquiry is actually a process of asking ourselves, what happens when I'm bonded to the thought, and what happens when I let it go, and all the emotions on either side of that. I have personally done her work on several different issues, and I always find it a really good process to pick up pen and paper. And that's another thing she talks about. It's really important to do the writing behind it, to allow ourselves to get the words and the thoughts out on paper. A really vital part of the process, not to just keep it in our minds, because actually that's where the problem area is. It's all that thinking. So putting it out on paper is actually a process of distillation, and it allows a process of distillation. And what I find really amazing about it is how the simplicity of her method uncovers a huge amount of ideas, opinions, frustrations, fears, projections, assumptions that one might go through by just believing one singular thought. And what I like about this book, and why I did a little flick through it actually, as we were just before I started talking, for example, here, is that she has divided the book into different areas of our life. So we can look at questioning our thinking when it comes to family and the home, or work and money, or our children, or our partnerships and romance, or husbands and wives and spouses, or even in terms of our own self-realization. So what's great about it is that this particular book, this particular text, Question Your Thinking, has been covering actually various areas of our life. But the principle that she uses is actually along all of these areas. It can be applied throughout. And what this book does is then gives the reflection of if we apply in our money and our work life, and issues around earning, or issues around the workplace and colleagues and hierarchies and so forth, all the way to marriage and the commitment that we make towards each other and what that really means. So what I really like about this book is that it's actually going across a wide various areas of our personal lives, as well as our professional and our family lives and our home and our communities. And also the fact that the questions, though, are so simple still. And I would really encourage anyone that is currently going through a period where they might want to have a simple process of just looking again at a perception, to pick up pen and paper and use the work to question thinking. I will link down below her website where there are actually sheets available for free to download, so please do so. I really like about the fact that she's really fantastic in sharing a lot of information without any cost. Sorry, that's my cat that's up there, which is a cue, I think, to stop soon. But anyway, have a look at Byron Katie's Question Your Thinking, Change the World. And let me know if you've come across a piece of literature like this as well, which has helped you to divorce yourself from your own thinking, but through a very specific question by question process. If you do check out the work, also let me know what happened when you've answered the questions or what your ideas are on it. And as usual, please leave comment, like, share, press the notification bell, subscribe and press the notification bell if you'd like to see more of my videos. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.